Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to yet another tropical forecast here by Agent of the Forecast. In this video, we're going to be talking about that tropical Atlantic as we're really watching for potential some big activity in the coming days in the next week, as well as we get near the official peak of the hurricane season here. So really, that's exactly why we're really having a lot of tropical videos, because it's getting really close to the peak. We already have yet another disturbance in actually the western Atlantic. So we're continuing to see so many new disturbances here. We actually have two that are actually at a higher risk for formation in the next 5 days. So we can very well see Paulette and Renee possibly by the end of the week. So really possibly see some potential more activity before they peak here, which would be very interesting. We already have 15 named storms, so that would make it 17 named storms before the peak, which has basically actually never had really been done before, even 2005. So this is going to be really interesting. So we're going to be talking about the conditions, if these can form, looking at all three disturbances and all of that in today's video. Hope you guys do enjoy, and let's get into it. So here's looking at the National Hurricane Center, and as you see, Invest 91 is actually gone. There's no chance for formation anymore, but it has been replaced by yet another new disturbance now in the western Atlantic instead of the eastern Atlantic. So this new one did not come from Africa, surprisingly. But you see, it's actually at a 10% chance for 48 hours and a 10% chance for 5 days. So whenever you have it dead center equal for 48 hours and 5 days, you can't just really look at the percentage, because there's still a 10% chance, guys, for 48 hours. So it still has a 10% chance to form the next 48 hours, and if it continues to go up, it could possibly form. So really watching, guys, it's possibly going to kind of do like a little Nana 2.0 track here. So it seems like it's possibly going to form around south of Jamaica or pretty rather soon, but I can't really say where its track's going to be, but it's probably going to go like that or something like that. That's just based on the cone here, but who knows, the cone could shift north, south, but that's our new disturbance that we have now. And as you see here, we have our two disturbances. Here's Invest 92L, and this will possibly be 93L probably rather soon, but it is now a 90. It's at 90% chance for 5 days and a 60% chance for 48 hours. So this could possibly be Paulette, possibly rather soon here. 48 hours has a 60% chance, which is actually a medium risk or chance, and it has a 90% chance for 5 days. So almost a 100% chance for this to possibly form here, but it's at a 90. And then we have our another disturbance number 3 at an 80% chance for 5 days. So all of these have increased here. So this is at a 90%, this is at an 80%. So really seems like we see back-to-back disturbances here and possibly systems. Obviously, we can't really say whether these will affect land or the U.S. or really going to affect anywhere. We can't really say that with certainty, but I do feel like there's a chance for possibly the southeastern United States coast and portion of the Caribbean to possibly be on the lookout, because based on its cone for where it can form, it's basically going to be kind of possibly forming just like going west. It's not going to be going northwest or anything. So that's going to possibly raise some possibilities here. So if you're in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, even if you're in the southeastern United States coast and you want to keep a lookout on this, then go ahead. But I wouldn't prepare. I wouldn't say you're going to get hit, because it hasn't even formed yet. But based on this, it seems like it's possibly going to pose a threat, maybe to land here. We just can't say exactly 100% sure if that will actually happen and what land will get affected. So there's a possibility maybe we can have a threat for the U.S. and the Caribbean next coming days if this continues to show westward shift. And also we have disturbance number 3 here. Obviously, this is way too far to see if it's going to possibly affect the United States, but it seems like at least one of these will go out to sea. It's probably going to be 90, possibly soon to be 93L, might go out to sea like that, but it seems like 92L seems it has a possibility. It may have a possibility to possibly affect the southeastern United States coast, even Bahamas, but that's exactly going to be monitoring in the next coming days here. So here's looking now at the relative humidity, and this is actually where we do have now Invest 92L. It's actually right here in this little small area of moisture. It's going to be we're starting to see a little bit more portions of moisture starting to pop up, and I believe this is actually the new disturbance we have now And then this is actually the one we have now with the 80% chance, which will be soon be 93L. So we have 3 years we're really monitoring the Atlantic here. So really interesting what we're seeing here. But this is our new one with a 10% chance. This is 90% chance, and this is the 80% chance. So we already have three disturbances now. So really, really interesting. Seems like at least two. It seems like at least two will possibly form here. So we're going to be seeing whether that new disturbance in the Western Atlantic could possibly increase. So that would actually be crazy if we can get Paulette, Renee, and even extended amount more storms before the peak here. And that could really possibly bring in the chance for Greek name storms maybe a lot sooner than people anticipated. So here's a look now. Speaking of the peak here, this is actually the peak. Obviously September 10th or September 11th. It's really both, but it's kind of both. But September 10th is kind of that one day, really exactly that one day. But 9/5, it's basically right here. Actually, that's actually possibly. This is actually probably where September 5th is. We're actually getting really close to that peak here. We're getting really close to that peak here, and we already have 15 named storms, and we can actually possibly get maybe two more named storms, maybe one. We do have two disturbances with a high chance for formation in the next 5 days. In 5 days, that's September 10th, so we can possibly have two named storms, maybe watching out for a possibility for three named storms during the peak of the season. Obviously, I said maybe three because maybe that new disturbance, since it already had a 10% chance for 48 hours and 10 for 5 days, maybe if the 5-day increases, it will be the same thing for 48 hours. So that's really going to just depend. So it seems like we could possibly have Paulette and Renee maybe by September 10th or September 11th here. Seems like we could definitely have Paulette because it has a 60% chance in 48 hours, and that could possibly go to a high chance by tomorrow morning. But we're really going to watch out because the fact that we've had 15 named storms, guys, which is absolutely crazy, before the peak, which is September, and we still have a lot to go from September to even for November. And actually, we may even have December storms. So really, we have a lot to go. September, October, November, even December. So we have plenty of time to get the great name storms, and I think we can get to it as early as the first days of October here. I mean, we have, 6 more name storms to go? If we have 2 more, that would be crazy. Then we have 4 more. So really, we will have to have an extremely super duper hyperactive September to have great name storms before October. I mean, obviously, we already have 15 name storms before the peak, so September could be fairly, extremely rarely hyperactive, even for a peak season. So we're just going to really monitor if we're going to be seeing more monsoons here that coming off Africa due to the MJO. But we're really going to be really watching for this time frame here, and we're going to be really concerned. We're going to be really watching out. What will happen? What will we see at this time in the next coming days? Will we have 2 name storms, 3 name storms, or only 1 name storm? And really, how active will it be getting into October? Could we have just one giant peak from September to October where it's like this? Could we have one giant peak like that? That's exactly what we're going to be watching, because I think we can be seeing a super, super fairly hyperactive September and October combined. So I really think it's going to definitely be a big concern of what's to come in the next coming weeks. So here's looking now at the SSTs here. We're going to be looking at the conditions here for these disturbances and whether there's a good chance SSTs-wise to form if the waters are warm enough. So our new disturbance is actually just south of Puerto Rico near the Lesser Antilles, between that general area, and it's going over 29 degrees Celsius water. So it's going over through some fairly warm waters, and if it's going to do like a nano track, it's going to be heading to some pretty decent waters that are kind of staying at the same really temperature. We're not really getting above 30 degrees Celsius. We're going to be seeing 28 degrees Celsius, maybe 29 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius for maybe that where it has that area for formation. So really, it's got the waters, pretty really warm waters there. So seems like water-wise, it does have the warm waters for this to possibly form. Also, the MDR is really starting to warm up now. these 29 and 28 degrees Celsius are continuing to move, and we have now even more 30 degrees Celsius for the equatorial Atlantic and tropical Atlantic here, and we now have 29 degrees Celsius now off the coast of Africa, and that will be where that new disturbance comes. That one with the 80% chance, that's where that disturbance will go over. So it's going to go over through some fairly warm waters. So this is really, if these MDR waters really warm up, that means the disturbances could possibly form sooner, and that's going to mean a bigger threat as they do go into the Western Atlantic. They'll go into the Western Atlantic stronger and come out stronger. So that's going to lead some possibilities here if Invest 92L does actually head possibly maybe for the southeastern United States coast, and the waters are continuing to warm up. 29 to 31 degrees Celsius waters, really concerned possibly for maybe one of these to be hurricanes, but obviously too far to say. But I think definitely if any storms or disturbances that we have now go towards the Western Atlantic like this, or like this, they are definitely going to possibly be hurricanes. The waters are really warm. That's exactly why September is the peak of the season. So here's another look now at the SSTs, and already seeing we are basically still continuing to stay at a La Nina status. It's actually seeing extremely cold waters here for Nina 1 and 2 regions. We're seeing some areas that are seeing 5 degrees Celsius below average. That is pretty crazy, guys. That is extremely crazy to actually have, because, I mean, 5 degrees Celsius below average, that is a huge difference compared to the average. So really that Nino 1 and 2 regions really coming into factors here for that strengthening La Nina status, and obviously that's going to really warm up these waters. As you see, from Africa to the Central America, we're seeing really warm waters, and from the Gulf of Mexico to Spain, we're seeing really warm water. We're seeing a generally very warm equatorial and northern Atlantic here, so that's going to really raise concerns here for long track storms here, because those waters are a lot warmer, up to 1 to possibly even portions that are seeing 3 degrees Celsius below average, which is actually, I know you think about it, not much, but when it comes to the tropics, 1 to 3 degrees Celsius could possibly do a huge difference. But as you see, definitely seeing continuously a cooling off the equatorial Pacific from South America up into the areas north of the Fiji Islands. And it's going to really bring some big concerns here, because obviously the longer we stay at La Nina status, the more it would actually become official. And then the deeper we get into La Nina status means we're going to be seeing less year, which means less drier, which means better conditions for tropical systems and cyclones in the northern Atlantic, leading to a more hyperactive season. Let's take a look at the ocean heat content. This is actually showing the amount of energy stored in the waters of the Atlantic here. So if the higher, the more favorable for a storm to blow up. So we're going to be seeing, this is actually all the energy from the really warm waters we have in these general areas. This is how much energy is stored, because obviously it's just continuing over time. These waters are continuing to stay warm, and that's going to cause a lot of energy and heat content. So if a storm goes in these higher areas of content, it's going to really blow up. So the higher the heat content, the more likely for a storm to really strengthen and blow up. And we're seeing some concerns here, because we're continuing to see that ocean heat content becoming higher and more widespread, spreading now between Bermuda, actually spreading to the North Carolina coast, spreading in front of the spreading in front of the Lesser Antilles. We're starting to see a lot more heat content now coming out into portions of the mid-Atlantic near the Lesser Antilles there, even between Cuba to the Bermuda. We're starting to see some more widespread areas of higher heat content. So that's going to lead to more possibilities for these storms to possibly blow up that come from Africa or a long track here. That's going to definitely raise the concerns. And if Invest 92 or whatever Invest does head towards right now or the coming days this way, and with those warmer heat content, that's going to possibly lead concerns and favorable conditions for this actually to become a big threat. Here's looking now at the tracks here and the probability in the next 120 hours due to the NCEP. And actually, they do show a 100% chance in the next 120 hours for 92L to form. So it seems very likely at this point. And then the one coming off Africa has an 80 to 90% chance for forming in the next 120 hours. This is actually not the National Hurricane Center. It's actually completely different. but we're be seeing 2 spots here for possibly formation here. This would be C93L, that's 92L, and it seems like a lot of the tracks are heading out to sea. Like I said, I think 93L could possibly head out to sea, but 92L, I think 92L does have a possibility to maybe impact maybe areas of the southeastern coast. Could be a Florence-like track maybe, you know. Not saying that's going to happen. A lot of them are going out to sea, but we've had a lot more of a western trend here where tracks kind of heading this way. So that's going to be leading to concerns. If they continue to show that, that will be something to keep in mind. Coming! I do apologize, guys, for yelling that. I actually meant to pause my video. I do apologize for yelling coming. My parents were calling me for dinner. But yeah. What is going on, everybody? So here we are now going to be taking a look now at the satellite imagery here. And as you see, it is looking... We do have a lot of cloud cover here, so it's not really super well defined here. Low pressure's around right here. But yeah, we have a lot of cloud cover here. It seems to really trying to dense up a little bit more, kind of compact, which is pretty good. And starting to see some bigger areas of convection here, so that's actually going to be a little bit of a sign of this trying to get its act together. Obviously, it's an invest, so it won't look impressive, but as you see, starting to see little dots of convection kind of starting to pop up. So that's pretty good, wise. And as you see, then it gets pretty dark. The satellite goes dark because it's night over there in the portions of the eastern and central Atlantic. But as you see, it's gotten better since it looked earlier today. You see, it was pretty wide open, really pretty open, obviously. And now it's really trying to kind of circle up and compact and kind of get its act together here. So really just going to continue to monitor this and see whether it does start to get more convection, or if it decreases in convection. That's exactly what we're going to be looking at. Here's a look at the tracks here. Now you see they actually have shifted a bit more to now that western turn, or that kind of west. As you see, the AVNI is actually going straight west. The CEMI is going to kind of due north. And then we got these little 2 models for the UK model kind of going between, and then the AEMI kind of going between. But it seems like obviously this is going to be somewhat going west at some point. It just is it going to go north like that? It's going to go straight like that? Or it's going to go between like that? Now, obviously, that's a huge difference, because if it does this, it could hit the U.S. and the Caribbean. If it does this, it's going to go out to sea. If it does this, maybe Bermuda. You know, we're just a lot of possibilities here. But obviously, as this becomes more defined, and obviously it's a disturbance and it invests longer, and maybe even tropical depression soon, then we can actually get a way better picture. But a lot more models are tracking this on intensity. Now you see we have 1 model showing a hurricane, the rest getting this to named. But we have a lot more models getting this to be in a tropical storm than yesterday, which is actually an improvement, actually. That's very, very good. But you see, we can have a tropical storm based on this as early as 24 hours, which obviously probably won't happen, and as late as possibly 96 hours, which is actually pretty reasonable. But these models show being a tropical storm 24 or 96 hours here. We only have 1 model, the AEMI, not getting this tropical storm, but it seems like it's going to be rising there very soon. So basically every single model should be becoming a tropical storm. Some show it being very, very weak. Some show it being probably very strong. But a lot of the models, almost 100% of the models, based on the intensity, are showing this becoming named at some point before the 5-day mark. Actually, they kind of show it. A lot of them actually show it happening before the 3-day mark. So that's going to be very interesting. But remember, it does have a 60% chance for 48 hours. So it could very well form in 48 hours. I just don't think it's going to form in 24 hours. But obviously, it can just form. It could really, really well have the tropical depression winds here. Could very well have tropical depression winds already here, possibly tropical cyclone winds. But it's just a structure, really. Once they get the structure, then they can make it a tropical depression there, because it could very well have the winds, but just not the structure here. But yeah, that will only be the only reason why it forms in 24 hours. But it's probably gonna form obviously in the next kind of 48 to 60 hours, possibly 72 hours. So here's looking at the vorticity here in the next 24 hours, actually 48 hours. Here's going to be Invest 92L, and this will be the one that's off Africa that has an 80% chance here. As you see, European shows actually 92L being pretty significant with vorticity. Going to go north of the Caribbean there, and then we have another one coming off Africa in 120 hours. It's going to be like a 3 system. As you see, it's going to be like the soon-to-be 93L and 92 are going to get very, very close to each other. I mean, extremely close. And then we have the one, that new one, or not the new one, this other one that the European show is coming off Africa. But it seems like the Europeans taking all of these out to sea here, including 93L, soon-to-be 93L, 92L, and then another one that's going to supposedly come off Africa as well. Let's check out the new 18Z GFS for vorticity. As you see, we have that new vorticity coming off Africa, or that vorticity coming off Africa. That is that one with the 80% chance, and then we do have some small vorticity signatures, not too significant at all, and that's going to be 90. That's actually 92L. Next 24 hours, it seems like 92L is going to definitely get its act together vorticity-wise, but it seems like for sure these storms could possibly, within the GFS, have a very good vorticity signature. You see, they can be awfully close, following each other's footsteps here. This is in 90 hours, and then they see it seems like 93O just takes off here. It just takes off. I mean, this could be 93L pretty rather soon. It seems like it just blows up, and it looks like 92L kind of just I guess you could say gets its energy. It loses energy, and that goes into 93L. Seems like there's gonna be some drier in front of 92L. 92L will get absorbed by that dryer, and that's going to lead the remaining moisture from 92L into 93L's path, which is going to be possibly why it does blow up. But you see, as well, GFS shows this going out to sea. Obviously, there is a concern of shear in the next 36 hours. We're going to be seeing actually some pretty favorable conditions because you see this shear here. That's actually not where the disturbances are. That's exactly why 91L died, because it was too far south and got caught up in that 30 and 40 and out the shear there. But we're actually pretty lucky here that Invest 92L is all the way up more north than we've had the disturbances usually this year. And we actually have obviously soon to be 93L actually right here as well. So they're going to be both into very favorable areas of no shear, basically very little shear here. Some portions actually have less than actually 4 knots, so that's going to be very interesting here for potential development. As you see, there we have the 2 low pressures there, 1,002 millibars and then 1,003 millibars, so they're both really lucky to get a little portion of no shear here. Very, very lucky that they're finding those pockets of very little shear, actually no shear at some point. And obviously it seems like 92L just gets absorbed by that dryer, opens up, and that's going to leave it a perfect path, a perfect opportunity for 93L to thrive in this big blob of no shear. That's exactly why 93L could possibly really just get its act together and then blow up. So that's exactly why we're seeing that also as well with the dryer possibly, since 92L is in front, it'll get everything, the dry air and the shear, and that will leave almost perfect conditions for a long time for 93L, or soon to be 93L. I know it's not confirmed. And then moisture, we're seeing a ton of moisture here. A ton of moisture here with 92L here. We have a lot of moisture there, extremely humid and wet. And also as well off Sierra Leone, which is actually where that other disturbance is. And then we obviously have the other one right here in the Western Atlantic here. So as of now, they definitely have their moisture bubble here. But with 92L, it gets opened up. You can kind of see 92L is right here. 93L is right there. They're kind of following each other's footsteps, but it seems like this dryer is going to start to stretch its way here, and that's going to possibly open it up with that shear getting in. And like I said, it's going to start to really open it up, and that's going to leave in a ton of moisture, kind of going this way, and that's going to all be in 93L's path at the same time, which is going to help it thrive. And then you can see 93L end up thriving there. It's going to be end up thriving because 92L does fall apart. But guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. So we're basically going to be really watching out for the opportunity of having a couple more named storms before the official peak. Paulette seems likely, and we might even see Renee before September 11th. So that's going to be very interesting to have possibly 17 named storms before the peak of the season there, which is actually basically, I believe, hasn't even been done in 2005. So that's really, really interesting here, and that leaves only a little amount left of storms left until we get to Greek. So really interesting here. We're going to really see whether these do form, whether they start to pose a threat to land, including the Caribbean and the US. That's what we'll be talking in the next coming videos here, and bye guys.